My name is Clara Jennings. I'm 66 years old, and I never thought the proudest day of my life would turn into the moment I was seen as the villain. But that's exactly what happened. I stood at the back of a grand ballroom, surrounded by chandeliers and laughter that didn't belong to me. Guests in glittering gowns and tailored suits filled the room, celebrating what was supposed to be a perfect wedding. My son's wedding. And yet, I wasn't welcome. No one said it out loud, but I felt it in every glance, every whisper, every turned shoulder. To them, I was the unwanted guest, the bitter mother who showed up uninvited to ruin her son's happiness. They had no idea why I was really there. At the front of the hall stood my son, Michael. My whole world. He looked proud, confident, happier than I had seen him in years. Watching him smile like that nearly broke me, because I knew that smile wouldn't last. Not after today. The music softened. Conversations faded. And, before I could second-guess myself, I stepped forward. My voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. Stop. That single word sliced through the room like glass. Forks paused midair. Conversations died instantly. Hundreds of eyes turned toward me, confusion spreading like wildfire. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest, but I refused to back down. If I stayed silent now, I would lose him forever. To everyone else, I looked like a cruel mother trying to destroy her son's big day. But I knew the truth. This wasn't a wedding. It was a trap. And I wasn't about to let my son walk into it. The truth didn't begin that day. It started years ago, after everything I had already lost. I became a widow at just 32. My husband, Daniel, was taken from us in a sudden accident, leaving me alone with an 8-year-old boy who didn't understand why his father would never come home again. There are no words to explain that kind of loss to a child. So instead, I made a promise. I would give Michael everything he deserved, even if it cost me everything I had. Those years were brutal. I worked mornings at a small library, then cleaned office buildings late into the night. Some days I barely slept. Some nights I cried quietly so Michael wouldn't hear me. But every time I saw him studying at the kitchen table, waiting up just to say goodnight, I kept going, because he was worth it. Every sacrifice, every exhausted step, every broken piece of me. And somehow we made it. Michael grew into a man I was endlessly proud of. He worked hard, built a career in engineering, and created a life far beyond anything I could have imagined for him. But no matter how far he went, he never forgot me. Every Sunday, without fail, my phone would ring. "Hey, Mom," he'd say. And just like that, everything felt right again. We were a team. We had survived too much to ever be broken. Or, at least, that's what I believed. Until she came into his life. Her name was Olivia Bennett. At least, that's what she told us. When Michael first introduced her to me, I wanted, more than anything, to like her. To accept her. To believe she was the person who would make my son happy. And at first it was easy. She was everything a mother would hope for. Soft-spoken, elegant, kind, the kind of woman who smiled just enough to seem sincere, but not enough to seem fake. The kind of woman who knew exactly what to say and when to say it. I remember the first dinner we had together. She leaned forward slightly, her voice gentle, almost fragile. "My parents don't approve of Michael," she said quietly. "They think he's not good enough." Tears filled her eyes at just the right moment. "I don't care about money. I just want love." And then she looked at me like I was the answer she'd been searching for. "You're the kind of mother I wish I had." That was it. That was the moment she won me over. I reached across the table and held her hand, promising her something I truly meant at the time, that she would always have a place in our family. Looking back now, that was exactly what she wanted. From that point on, I threw myself into helping with the wedding. If she wanted something, I made it happen. A grand venue? Done. Designer dress? Of course. Thousands of flowers? Why not? I drained my savings without hesitation. I even borrowed money against my home, money I had spent decades trying to secure. But I didn't care, because in my mind, I wasn't losing anything. I was gaining a daughter. Or so I thought. The wedding plans grew bigger, more expensive, more extravagant. But something didn't feel right. At first it was small things. Olivia always paid in cash. She avoided details about her past. Her stories didn't quite line up when repeated. But every time I questioned it, I pushed the thought away. Because doubt is uncomfortable, and love makes excuses. Still, the feeling never left me. It sat quietly in the back of my mind, whispering that something was off. Something I couldn't see yet. Something I didn't want to see. The truth revealed itself in the most unexpected way. And once I heard it, there was no going back. It was supposed to be an ordinary evening. Nothing special. Nothing dramatic. I had stopped by Michael's apartment to drop off a few wedding items, small gifts, and decorations Olivia had chosen. The place was quiet. Too quiet. I assumed they were out, so I let myself in. I had just set the boxes down when I heard something. A voice. Her voice. Coming from the bedroom. At first I smiled, thinking she was on the phone with a friend. But then I heard the tone. Cold. Sharp. Completely different from the gentle woman I thought I knew. I froze. Something wasn't right. I moved slowly down the hallway, my heart pounding louder with each step. And then I heard it clearly. Victor, I told you not to call me here. My breath caught. The way she spoke, it wasn't fear. It was control. Yes, the wedding is still happening. No, he doesn't suspect anything. My chest tightened. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Once we're married, I'll have access to everything. We agreed on 30%. Don't start changing the deal now. The world tilted. Everything inside me went cold. She wasn't in love. She was planning something. Something involving my son. I pressed myself against the wall, barely able to stay standing. Then she said something I will never forget. The old woman already gave us over $40,000. She'll probably give more after the wedding. I felt like I'd been slapped. The whole thing could be worth at least $200,000. I couldn't hear anything else after that. My ears rang. My hands trembled. I wasn't a mother to her. I was a target. I stepped back carefully, terrified of making a sound. Every movement felt heavy, unreal. When I reached the door, I slipped outside and walked to my car like I was in a dream. I didn't make it far. Just a few streets away, I had to pull over. My hands gripped the steering wheel as tears blurred my vision. For nearly an hour, I sat there, broken, shattered, trying to understand how I had been so blind. But then something changed. The fear didn't disappear. The pain didn't fade. But something stronger rose in its place. Resolve. If she thought she could destroy my son, if she thought she could take everything we had built, she was wrong. I wiped my tears, started the car, and made a decision. I needed proof. Not suspicion. Not emotion. Proof. And that decision would change everything. The next morning, I didn't feel like the same person. Something inside me had hardened overnight. The fear was still there, but now it had direction. I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't go to Michael with just words. Not when he was so deeply in love. Not when he believed he had found the woman he wanted to spend his life with. If I accused her without proof, I would lose him. So I did the only thing I could. I started searching. I sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a cup of cold coffee I hadn't touched. My fingers hovered over the keyboard longer than I'd like to admit. Then I typed, "Private investigator near me." It felt surreal, like something out of a movie. But this wasn't a movie. This was my son's life. That's how I found Patricia Moore, a retired detective with years of experience in financial crimes and fraud. Her profile was simple, direct, and to the point. No flashy promises, no exaggerated claims. Just results. We met that afternoon at a quiet cafe downtown. She studied me carefully as I explained everything: the phone call, the money, the inconsistencies. I expected skepticism. Instead, she nodded. Slowly. Like she had seen this before. "Mrs. Jennings," she said calmly, "what you're describing isn't unusual." That sentence alone made my stomach drop. These types of scams are more common than people realize. They build trust, create emotional dependence, then they strike when everything is in their control. I felt sick. "So, you believe me?" I asked. "I believe you heard something real," she replied. "Now we need to prove it." I didn't hesitate. I slid a check across the table. More money I couldn't afford to lose. But I didn't care anymore. If there was even a chance to protect Michael, it was worth it. The next 2 weeks felt like a lifetime. Every day, I acted normal. I smiled when Michael called. I discussed wedding details with Olivia, like nothing had changed. I watched her laugh, smile, and play her role perfectly, knowing what she really was. It was exhausting, but I couldn't slip. Not even once. Then one evening, my phone rang. "Patricia." "Clara, are you sitting down?" My heart dropped instantly. "No," I said. "Tell me." There was a brief pause. Then she said the words that changed everything. "Olivia Bennett isn't her real name." I closed my eyes. I knew it. I just knew it. Her real name was Samantha Reed, 29 years old. A history that was anything but clean. As Patricia spoke, each sentence felt heavier than the last. "She's been arrested multiple times for fraud," she explained. "Different states. Different identities. Same pattern." I gripped the edge of the counter to steady myself. What kind of pattern? Patricia didn't hesitate. "She finds men with stable finances, builds a relationship, gains trust, not just from them, but from their families too. Then she positions herself to access money and disappears." My chest tightened. Michael wasn't special to her. He was just the next target. "And she doesn't work alone," Patricia continued. That made my stomach twist. "There's usually a partner involved. Someone who helps coordinate things behind the scenes." A cold chill ran through me. "Victor?" I whispered. "Yes," Patricia said. "Victor Cruz." The same name I had heard that night. The same voice on the other end of the call. But what Patricia told me next, I wasn't prepared for. "They used to work together," she said. "Romantically involved too. But a few years ago, she scammed him, took a large amount of money, and vanished." I blinked in disbelief. "She stole from her own partner?" "Yes. Around 15,000. I let out a slow breath. So even criminals couldn't trust her. "Can you find him?" I asked. There was a pause. "Clara, what are you thinking?" I stared out the window, my reflection faint in the glass. "If he's been looking for her all this time," I turned back, my voice steady, "then maybe he'd like to know where she is." Patricia studied me carefully. "You're planning something." "Yes," I said. "I am." 2 days later, I had his number. I stared at it for a long time before dialing. When he answered, his voice was rough, guarded. "Who is this?" I took a deep breath. "My name is Clara Jennings." Silence. Then I said the words that changed everything. "You knew her as Samantha Reed." The silence on the other end became heavier. "Dangerous." "She's getting married," I continued, "to my son, in 9 days." For a moment, I thought he might hang up. Instead, he spoke. Slow. Focused. "Start talking." And I did. I told him everything. By the time I finished, there was no hesitation in his voice. "I'll be there." The morning of the wedding arrived under a gray, heavy sky. It felt like the world itself knew something was about to break. I hadn't slept. Not really. Every moment of the past week had been spent preparing, going over every detail, every step, every possibility. There was no room for mistakes. Not today. The venue looked exactly like Olivia had dreamed. Elegant. Extravagant. Perfect. Thousands of white roses lined the entrance. Music floated through the air. Guests arrived dressed in their finest, smiling, laughing, completely unaware of what was coming. To them, it was a fairy tale. To me, it was a stage. I entered quietly through the side garden. No one stopped me. No one noticed me. Just an older woman in a simple black dress. Invisible. From my position near the back, I could see everything. Michael stood at the altar. Calm, happy, certain. That look on his face nearly broke me, because I knew I was about to destroy it. The music began. Everyone stood. And then she appeared. Samantha, walking down the aisle like nothing could touch her. Her dress shimmered under the lights. Her expression was flawless. Every step was confident, controlled. She looked like someone who had already won. But she hadn't.
Not yet.
As she reached the middle of the aisle, I reached into my purse. My hand didn't shake this time. I pulled out my phone and sent a single message.
Now.
A few seconds later, the doors opened. The sound echoed through the entire room.
Heavy. Sharp.
Unmistakable. Every head turned. Every voice fell silent. And then he walked in. Victor Cruz. He didn't belong there. Not in that room full of polished guests and perfect smiles. But that's exactly why no one could look away. He walked straight down the aisle. No hesitation. No fear. Just purpose. And then, he spoke. Or should I call you Samantha Reed? The room exploded into whispers. Samantha froze.
Completely.
Like her entire world had just cracked beneath her feet. And in that moment, everything began to fall apart. The moment his voice echoed through the hall, everything changed. Or should I call you Samantha Reed? You could feel it. That instant shift in the air. Like the entire room had stopped breathing at once. Samantha's body went rigid. Her smile, perfect just seconds ago, collapsed like it had never been real to begin with. The bouquet slipped from her hands, roses scattering across the aisle in silence. Michael stepped forward, confused. Concerned. Sir, I think you've made a mistake, he said, trying to stay calm. This is Olivia. Victor let out a cold, humorless laugh. Olivia, he interrupted. Is that the name she's using now? Murmurs spread through the guests like wildfire. I stayed where I was, watching, waiting, because this wasn't over yet. Victor reached into his coat and pulled out a thick folder. Let me help you understand who you're about to marry, he said, his voice sharp and steady. He opened it. Photos, documents, records. All different names, he continued. Same woman, same scam. Michael didn't move.
Didn't speak.
He just stared. Samantha's eyes darted around the room, searching for control, but there was none left. Michael, don't listen to him, she said quickly, stepping toward him. He's lying. He's obsessed with me. He's dangerous. Am I? Victor snapped. He pulled out his phone. Then let's hear your voice. And then the recording played. Her voice.
Cold.
Calculated. Full. The old woman already gave us over 40,000. The son's easy. Once we're married, everything becomes accessible. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Someone dropped a glass. Another guest whispered, "Oh my God." Michael staggered back slightly, like he had been physically hit. His eyes locked onto her, really looking at her for the first time. Not the woman he loved, but the truth standing in front of him. Samantha's composure shattered. "That's not what it sounds like," she cried. "They twisted it, Michael. Please, you know me."
But her voice, that was different now.
Desperate. Uneven.
Real.
And that's when it happened. The final blow. The doors opened again. 2 officers stepped inside. Badges raised. Voices firm. Samantha Reed, one of them said, "You are under arrest for fraud, identity theft, and financial crimes." The room erupted.
Gasps.
Whispers. Phones rising to record. Samantha tried to step back, but there was nowhere to go. "This is a mistake," she shouted, panic flooding her voice. "You don't understand." But it was over. They cuffed her right there. In the same dress she had planned to get married in. The same aisle she had walked down minutes earlier. And as they led her away, no one saw a bride anymore. Only the truth. After the doors closed behind her, silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Unreal. Hundreds of guests sat frozen, unsure what they had just witnessed. A wedding had turned into something else entirely. Something no one would ever forget. Michael still stood at the altar. Alone. His expression empty. Like everything inside him had just collapsed. I wanted to run to him. To hold him like I used to when he was a child. To tell him everything would be okay. But I didn't. Because this pain, he had to face it himself. Slowly, the room came back to life. Whispers filled the space. Fraud. Scam. I knew something felt off. Phones buzzed as the story began spreading beyond those walls. But none of that mattered to me. Only him. Finally, he turned, and his eyes found mine. For a moment, I braced myself. For anger, for blame, for hatred. But none of that came. Just pain.
Deep. Raw.
Honest pain. He walked toward me slowly, each step heavy, measured. "Mom," he said quietly. His voice almost broke. "I don't even know what to say." I swallowed hard. "Then don't," I replied gently. "You don't have to." He shook his head, letting out a breath that sounded like it hurt.
No.
"I do." He looked at me, really looked this time. "I didn't believe you," he said. I thought you were just afraid of losing me." I stepped closer. "That's not a crime," I said softly. "That's love." His eyes filled with tears. "She laughed at you," he whispered. "She called you weak. Said you were just someone she could use." That stung. But I didn't let it show. "She didn't come between us," I said firmly. "Lies did." I reached up and gently adjusted his collar, something I had done 100 times before. A small, familiar gesture. "You trusted someone," I continued. "That doesn't make you foolish. It makes you human." He let out a shaky breath. And then, for the first time that day, he stepped forward and hugged me.
Tightly.
We stood there for a long moment, not saying anything, not needing to. Around us, the room slowly shifted. Guests gathered in small groups, speaking quietly. Some left. Others stayed, unsure of what came next. But something unexpected happened. The music didn't stop. Softly, almost cautiously, it continued. A few people moved toward Michael.
Friends. Colleagues.
People who cared. They didn't talk about what happened. Not right away. Instead, they stood beside him, supporting him, reminding him he wasn't alone. And somehow the atmosphere changed. What was supposed to be a celebration of marriage became something else. A moment of survival, of truth, of second chances. I stepped back, watching him, my son, still standing, still strong. Even after everything. That's when I realized something. This wasn't a ruined wedding. This was a rescue. Yes, his heart was broken. Yes, the pain would stay for a long time. But he had been saved from something far worse. A life built on lies. A future designed to destroy him. And sometimes, that kind of ending is the only one that matters. Later that evening, Michael stood beside me. Quieter now.
Calmer.
"You saved me," he said. I shook my head gently. "No," I replied. "I just showed you the truth." He nodded slowly, and I could see it in his eyes. He understood. Before we left, I placed something in his hand. A necklace.
Old.
Precious. Passed down through generations. "These aren't for today," I told him. "They're for the right person." He closed his hand around it, holding on to something real, something honest. And as we walked away from the place that was supposed to change his life, I realized something I will never forget. Not all weddings are meant to happen. Some exist only to reveal the truth, to stop us from making the biggest mistake of our lives. And sometimes, the most beautiful ending is the one that saves you before it begins.